The concepts I'm going to share with you today about singing with an open throat are profoundly going to change your approach to the way you sing, and it's also going to change your tone for the better. Hi and welcome to today's video. If you don't know me yet, my name is Freya, professional singer and vocal coach from Germany. Let's dive into singing with an open throat. You may have read it, you may have heard it. Certainly all of my students have heard me say this over and over and over again because it is so foundationally important that if you don't do it, you're going to struggle with control and just with your tone, with the beauty of your voice. You're not going to have good resonance. So let's dive in. Number one, what I want you to do is do a yawning. So you get a feeling for where those muscles are that move everything that sits back here in your throat. Of course, how do you define the throat? It might be anything that starts behind the uvula, this little thing on top that is attached. You also may define it as anything that goes all the way down to your larynx. For me, it really includes also what is inside of your mouth. And so when I talk about an open throat or open singing, I mean all the way. Your pharynx is really a major part of this, and your pharynx is anything that starts at the back of your tongue all the way down to your larynx. It is this huge space where you can make an open space or you can make a very narrow space. And having an open space, of course, shapes more empty space, so the sound waves that your vocal cords produce can actually resonate, and it's like a body of a guitar. Without it, the strings would be very, very soft, but with the hollow body that is attached, you're gonna have amplification. So the yawn, let's do a yawn together. Oh, take a deep breath and yawn. Oh, I think when I do this, you have to yawn anyway. It's very contagious. So take a deep breath. And then I try to speak while I yawn. Now what happens when you yawn, of course, everything is hugely open. I think it's a reflex of your body to get in more air, so everything gets out of the way so that you can get in air into your body without any obstruction, without any constriction. Of course, when we sing, we don't want to go all the way there, but I want you just to feel how it feels all the way on the end of the spectrum of everything is so wide open. But as you can hear, you can't really sing when you do that. So yawning is only the example where we just want to access where the muscles move. Now we're going to continue to fine tune it for singing. What I always tell my students is open throat feels more like you're about to yawn. While you yawn, you can't vocalize because everything is pushed out of the way extremely, and especially your larynx is affected too much, and that makes for a really dark tone, which is not anything we want to achieve. So let's start again at this yawning feeling, as if you were going to start a yawn, not going there. But now the second thing that I want you to try to do here is finding your ah. So let's start with a yawn in mind and then start an ah. Just speak it for now. Ah, yeah, yeah, ah. Think of that yawn. Yeah, yeah. We don't want to go all the way dark. We don't want to go yeah because we can't vocalize right. It's really too much larynx pushing. Yeah, just that onset of a yawn. It helps you access those muscles that you need to really open up that space there. Now let's vocalize on an open ah, which is going to be the foundation for everything you do here on out, whether it's a consonant or a vowel. We need that ah space back here in the pharynx. You can't see it from the outside, but you can sometimes even hear when you touch here. You can check yourself if you're open or not. When you have a very closed space, this will go up, and when you have an open space, it will come down, like so. see, the tongue moves along with that because everything is connected. It doesn't really move separately. However, you can move more in the back and less in the front, or more in the front and less in the back. And that's how we create all the shapes of all the vowels that we need. So let's sing the ah now on an actual pitch. You can pick a pitch that is in a very comfortable place. First, let's start with your chest voice. I'm going to start for my voice on a C4. Pick a middle chest voice pitch. Now let's go back and forth between making it nasal and making it open. And you should see and feel this right here. You can stand up in front of a mirror to check this down here. This is the larynx, but here we can feel the pharyngeal space. So go from an ah to an that is very, very nasal. Okay? One more time. Start a little bit higher maybe this time. And when you stand in front of a mirror, you can check both from the side if you can see this. It's like a frog almost. And you can also look from the front if you can see a big opening that lets you actually look into your throat. So I usually don't tell anyone that, but look inside of my throat, look down my throat and see what happens when I do an open ah versus a nasal sound, okay, when I close up. And as you could see, I'm not changing my jaw at all. That open sound doesn't come from opening my jaw more. It really comes from utilizing these muscles right here. The next step is to keep the ah. Don't lose it. You want to memorize what this space right here feels like. This ah versus that nasal sound. Okay? Now when we go on to other vowels, you want to keep the very back of your pharynx. You want to keep it as much in this opening position as possible while changing the shape to, just as much as necessary to the other vowels. Let's start at an ah and then go to an open aw. Okay? So let me again. So it's like without vibrato, it doesn't matter. But as you can see, in order to keep the nice opening and to move from ah to an ah, it really helps to use the lips a little bit. It helps resonance and it helps just better overtones and more clarity in your vowel. Let's move from ah to oo. Now, oo is even more closed than the ah, but only in the front. The very back, try to keep as much ah as possible while still sounding a very clear oo. And for that, you're also going to need your lips. Otherwise, it's not possible. Let's try it. As you could hear, there's actually an ah in between the ah and the oo. Because if I slowly move toward more closing, I actually have to do the ah first until I close even more toward the oo. Now, let's move to those vowels that actually require you to lift further back. You can't see it, but it almost looks like, let's do from an ah to an eh first. but keeping the back of the pharynx as much on an ah as possible while just lifting a little bit just between your back teeth a little bit. So it doesn't become nasal, but it only becomes a little bit more closed sounding. Closed and nasal are two different things. So let me demonstrate. Can you see that this space doesn't move? If I do the eh nasally and I actually close my pharyngeal space back here, the frog thing here, then it sounds like this. So you want to make sure you stay as much in an ah back here as you possibly can. Now let's move to the even more closed version of the A, which is an E. So again, we start at the open ah, move toward the E by transitioning. You actually do an A first, and then it becomes more and more closed until you land at an E. What is most important is that you really both pay attention to all the muscles that move and the position here, the tongue and the back of your pharynx, leaving your larynx neutral, and also the sound of the actual vowel. Does it sound like a true vowel? Is it like E or The E can have many shades and the ah can have many shades. We don't want ah or So we want the very neutral, as much as open, round space ah, and that's what everything is based on. Let's move from ah over to A and then to E. Now let's see if you can see this right here. If I go from a more nice resonant E that keeps the pharyngeal space in the back open to a very nasal E which closes it up more. You can't see as much because I'm not moving as much anymore, but there is a clear lift in the very back that makes it more nasal. Just picture the airflow and where the air goes. Pretty much where the air goes, that's where your sound waves can also travel. If you close up back here, the sound waves can't really, and the air can't move into your mouth and come out here. It only has the option to travel through the nasal cavity. So you're going to have a lot of nasal resonance. You can also have less nasal resonance and more mouth resonance. And it really depends on what genre you're singing and what voice type you are and what your voice is, your individual voice, on how much nasality sounds really great. Of course, not the extreme probably, but how much nasality you want in there, you can actually decide. The last point I'm going to make here is watch your throat. And when I talk about the throat is watch your larynx and your pharynx and make sure you know the difference. Because lowering the larynx and pushing it down really with force makes a really dark and non-natural tone. So it would be more like a It's not a very natural tone. I can make all these shapes. So that's why it's important to combine knowing where your muscles are and listening for the sound. You need both because the sound is actually going to give you the feedback of, does it sound like an open ah? Does it sound like an E that is still nice resonant, or does it already sound like an ooh because I'm trying to make so much space, it is too much space and it doesn't sound like a true E anymore. There's a fine line sometimes and you have to find the balance. I hope this video helped you. This is probably the thing that we're going to work on for the rest of our lives as singers to perfect resonance, and it has so much to do with operating all of these muscles right here. Of course, it is important that you have the basics in place. I always repeat it. you do need good posture so you can have a good expansion, take a deep breath, and control what you do by having good support. Thank you so much for watching today. Give the video a thumbs up if you also want to achieve a nice open resonant sound, and let me know in the comments, how are you on the scale of 1 to 10? Are you more nasal, which is 1, or are you nice and open already, which would be a 10? Where on the scale are you, do you think? And I always think it's good to come up with a plan. If you think you are a 2, you're quite nasal, and you want to go to 10, you can keep working on it. Keep watching this video and just repeat and gauge yourself. Really decide, what is the quality of the vowel that I'm actually singing? If you want to dive even deeper, you can go to my website, masteryourvoice.tv. I have a lot of free resources. I have a free 7 days to perfect support course that you can go into. And it's so important because support is your machinery. It is your engine. You need air. Without it, there is no sound in your voice. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great week. I'll see you next time. And until then, don't forget, always keep a song in your heart and always keep on singing.
Let the sky fall when it crumbles.